I want to do with that information?
Substitute do with another verb so that I get a better idea of where you're headed. Because do is like an action of
Yeah. What am I going to do with it?
busyness.
I'm either going to qualify it into my belief system,
Oh, I've already qualified.
or I'm not. No. You just have the knowing, you have the experience and resonance of the information, but you have to qualify it as something you believe now, which raises the frequency of your belief system, which drives what? Which drives cellular replication. That's how you change your body and get out of this place of all the time being sick, illness, diseases, accidents, and all the other crazy stuff that seems to be going on with us all. The only way to get out of this is not to fix it where we are, but to change our vibration and frequency by qualifying innate self-knowledge into our belief system and drive cellular development at a higher frequency and raise the body. And we're on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, you caught us. We were having a little pre-session here before the starting of today's class. I want to welcome you that are here today in person and any of you that are with us online today or later. So we're doing our best to see if we can kind of wrap up this whole subject that we have explored and observed, and that's what we have done. We have not done anything to try to prove or disprove anything. We have just tried to observe the many ways and possible ways that we can look at this rather interesting, I believe, subject, and can be somewhat controversial. As I said earlier to you that are not in here, this is not a quiz, it's not a test, it's not to see who passes and who doesn't. This is about what has shown up for you that is from your own experience with the information. So it's different than like when you go to class and education in school and they give you a book and they say, okay, you memorize the book and the facts, and then I'll test you based upon those facts. I'm not testing upon the different facts that I've given you. I'm asking for you to express your own experience with some of the information that has somehow resonated with you, that maybe you're willing to qualify it and therefore expand your state of consciousness about this subject. That is what I'm basically after. But before we get that, I am going to say that I'm drawn, I guess, toward the why of things, I guess, rather than the how and the what. I'm very interested into why is this a subject that is important for us to look at, and how does it affect our lives to know about this. But most of all, how that we're going to experience life based upon this idea of reincarnation. So I think behind a lot of this, there is some good history that I've tried to give you, and I think that's important that you understand just some of the history. So would anybody here want to share anything at all that had to do with some of the historical information that we have covered in the class?
What do you mean by historic?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the original, first 3 centuries after Yeshua was here, it's a very interesting time. I've studied that extensively, and the concept of reincarnation, as you mentioned, with origin, and it was all over the place, and it was not something that anybody thought much about, except that they accepted it. And so that's the historical part, I would say.
Yes, that's exactly what I was after, that we just understand a little bit that for the first 250 years or so, reincarnation was accepted as a part of the pre-organized Christian church.
And to that end, thousands of years before that, and to this day, other religions had and continue to accept it.
Right.
It's not just, I mean, in our environment here, we've all lived the effects, I wanted to say suffered the effects, but lived the effects of reincarnation being consciously removed. But we're only a part of the whole of humanity and the whole of history.
So the great question there is, why was it important for the newly organized church religion called Christianity to even revisit this idea of reincarnation and try to remove it from the teachings of the church?
To manage
To control us.
yeah,
Power.
control and manage.
Right.
Because
Okay.
the story was in the hands of people, and people go for power. They don't necessarily go for truth.
True.
Okay.
And they used a lot of fear to get them to that point too.
So what I just jotted down on why removed is a powerful group of cardinals and bishops that if every soul was pre-existed with Creator, that the Christ wasn't anything spatial to have come from God. So they wanted to make something special from God that we were not, because we needed to be saved. So they need to come up with a savior icon archetype to save us from ourselves. So they did not want us to know really of our spiritual identity or of what we call our divine nature. Therefore, they begin life pretty much at conception as a physical body. Now we know the physical body is not a perfect thing. That's just obvious. That anybody that deals with a human body deals with things that are lesser than the nature of God or Creator. And we still do every day. Every day we have to deal with illness and sickness, getting tired, limitations, how sleep, how we eat. Just think how much of your life is dedicated to your bodily identity. It's a lot. And if we get 5 minutes in of meditation, we've done good, because most of it has been just keeping the body going and the body happy and the body healthy and the body satisfied and the body looking good. And that's mostly where our energy goes. And I think that is one of the reasons that we have not evolved and developed to the level that we should be collectively to sustain and hold the new norm of the 5D that's coming in today, is because we have misdirected a lot of our energy, and working with our energy, we've neglected it more than we should have. I think we come here and we forget why we really are here. I really think that's a whole thing. It's a loss of memory that we have lost, that we actually have come here to be in this God School 101 Earth to learn and to grow and to mature. And all of a sudden we start thinking we're here to always marry the right person, to have the kids, to find the right job, to climb the corporate ladder. All of these things, I'm not judging those things at all, but that is not your purpose. That is not why you are here. You're here because the soul wants to mature, the soul wants to grow, the soul wants to evolve. And of course what we have done to water this thing down is we have paid those in the church to do it for us. We pay the priest, we pay the rabbi, the preacher, the minister, the teacher, and then we go a couple of times a week sometimes and let them do all of the work for us, and we try to grab on to whatever we can, and then we go right back to the same old issues without any transformation. And that's why this saying is so important, that you are transformed by the renewing of your mind. Not the preacher's mind, but by the renewing of your mind. So that's what we're after today. What of this subject has in any way shown up and sourced from your own innate intelligence. And you that just came in, we talked earlier, because once you understand what I've said, or whoever, whatever, it could be a book, whatever has resonated in you, and you had that almost aha moment, and even closer than that, I think the greater experience is, oh, I think I knew that, but I didn't understand it. Until maybe David said it, or somebody else said it, or I picked up a book and it said it. Something out there stimulated the response of my own innate intelligence in me, and I went, I get it. And I told you, one of the greatest things anybody can say to me back there is, I see what you're saying. That's a whole different experience, because you're saying, I understand what you're saying. And then from there, we talked about so share with those that just came in, what do we do after that? Once we come up with this knowing of something that resonates from our own self, is self-knowledge. Qualify it into our belief system, which drives
Our cellular
replication, which changes the whole frequency of the making of our bodies. I wish this could be the message to all people of religion and spirituality, that the answer they're looking for is not in a healer, a fixer, and I know that's our tendency, all of us. We'll always go the shortcut. The ego mind will always edit out the process. It doesn't want us to know the way. When the teacher said, I'm the way, that has been totally wiped out, that I have techniques and ways in which that you can attain to developing a much higher level of vibrational physiology. So we spend our time trying to fix the old one. I have the same tendency as anybody here. Trust me, fear will knock me out consciously, and I'll run to the quickest doctor I can find. And trust me, I do it. And most of the time, I'm here to tell you, I'm totally so disappointed in about 99% of them that I go to that didn't give me any answer at all or any solution to anything. I just went through some very intensive tests this week. The most intensive MRI I've ever been to. After all that I went through that, it comes back, you're fine.
And you were disappointed by that?
I was disappointed because they didn't tell me why am I having certain symptoms and issues. That's what I was after. I wasn't looking for an answer. I wasn't looking for them to heal me. I was looking for the fact that they could use their equipment to give me the information that would help me more to know which path I want to take to try to find. But I know what the path is, and the path is not somebody out there that's going to change me, but it's when I start using my consciousness to raise the frequency of my thinking and my belief to change cellular development, the body will follow. The body's a follower. That's why it's called soma. Soma is a neutral word ending, whereas spiritual is what? Pneuma? Masculine? Mind? Psyche? Feminine. You got masculine, you got feminine, you got neutral. And when all those things are working together, you can change the whole chemical electrical system that makes you a human being. And it is the chemical electrical system that makes you human. Unfortunately, it's not the spirit. The spirit is end up encased, even some call it imprisoned, in the body. Now, when this all changes and the spirit has been made chemical and electrical, then you will have a body of light. So I just want you to understand, the thing that's keeping you in that chair is your electrical system, your magnetic fields, your morphogenic fields, the neurons of electricity going between things, carrying memory and all these kind of things. You're an electrical, chemical human being. But guess what? Spirit said, I'm going to go and incarnate into it. That's the good news. The Spirit said, I will go and imprison myself in the limitations of a human body. Why? Because I want to work with the consciousness of that person to raise their consciousness to the level of what it means to be a spiritual, divine being. Then you've set the standard. The standard is to let the body become spiritual. And to me, that's one of the definitions of being spiritual rather than religious. See, religion is just a bunch of beliefs and hopes and fairy tales, and someday it's going to be this, and heaven, and it'll all be better by and by, and you're going to cool your feet in the crystal waters, and you don't have to work no more, and all that kind of stuff that gives hope to people who were so hopeless at the time. A lot of these old songs and things were made was because people were desperate. They needed hope, and they would go out and they would sing these things to each other, saying, hold on, things are going to get better. The thing is they didn't believe enough that things could get better in this life, so they had to develop an afterlife. And that's why I keep talking about the pineal gland. When that was given to me in the 60s, I knew this was something special that I had discovered in the human body that had a spiritual function on a physical level. It's the highest gland in the human body to change what is spirit into chemical. What do you think melatonin is? It is the light of day, sun, changing melatonin levels so that it comes down toward night so that you can sleep. This is what it's supposed to be in the natural law of physics. And then when sunlight comes, you wake up and you're up. All of that is because the pineal gland is able. So as the pineal gland is being used to bring in this new photon light data from fifth dimension, it has to make it to the pineal gland. But the trouble is the brain has set up so much defense mechanisms based upon our beliefs and what we've been taught outside of ourselves that oftentimes it is filtered and through the lens of our human systems, which is a lot of resistance. So, now I got into this. So, what I'm saying to you, this is why it is so important that you open the heart portal. It's no accident that something like heart math showed up when it did and became so popular. And the thing about heart math is it just didn't end up in religion in any way. Corporations, companies, all over the world, same time with mindfulness. Mindfulness and heart math absolutely was not contained in the boundaries of any particular system, but was attracted. Heart breathing, heart resistance breathing, all of that became for a reason, because it was time to open the heart portal. The heart portal, when it is open, takes the information in its purest form from fifth dimensional data that is breaking through, you got it? Shoots it right up into the brain and gives it to the pineal gland. The pineal takes the light, which is what a photon is, right? Changes it chemically like it does melatonin, and the brain gets it in an epiphany. So when all that takes place, that is what we see as changing our whole physiology that we've had for 50 million years or whatever it is as Homo sapiens. I'm not big on these numbers because everybody's got a different one. So whether it's been 20 million years or 50 million years, whatever, that we have moved more into thinking human. That's what Homo sapiens are. They're thinking humans. Up and before that, it was instinctive human. You know, when you get into caveman and all of that. And there's the overlap. It's not that one left and another one came. But the point is, at some point, we developed what's called the breakdown of the bicameral mind, which all of a sudden at that point, we humans started developing our frontal cortex and we started imagining things. And the imagination became the voice of God in our head. No other animal had that. Still don't. Your dog does not have imagination. I know you all just love your dogs and think they're the smartest things, but they don't have what a human has, because it's the human that carries the total potential of the divine incarnate. Now, I'm saying all of that to say there's really no reason to open this up to talk about reincarnation until you understand incarnation again. How are you going to understand reincarnation if you don't understand what's happening again and again is incarnation? So, I will cease from that because I'll get off on that. So, yes, there is history of this and how things were very different for the first 200 to 300 years after Yeshua showed up on the scene, who, to me, I still can't find where anybody else was declaring their divinity until he showed up. Buddha did not. Thank you. I don't see where any of the teachers or any of them ever came up with their own divinity, but came up with human enlightenment.
Well, I have a question for you about that,
Okay.
which might be a whole can. That they didn't identify it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have some level of divinity.
Oh, yeah.
But it was not their teachings.
Okay, fair enough.
So, to me, where our incarnation entered into human consciousness was 2,000 years ago, when one of us, and he was one of us, not some spatial virgin born separate being. He was one of us. He was son of man as much as he was son of God.
As we are.
We're all son of man. And then we become son of God when we understand that we are divinity incarnated in the human. Then we become the son of God, son of man. So everybody out there that doesn't know who they truly are is a son of man. Now, I'm not going to get into this daughter and son thing. You know what I'm talking about. In other words, people who don't know that they are an expression of God made manifest, then they are the sons of men. If you know who you are, now you become a son of man who's also become the son of God. Okay? So I'm not going to apologize, but I'm sorry, Yeshua is the key. I don't know where we would be without it. If he had not shown up here, or the story of him had not shown up here, that he dared to declare himself to be God made manifest in the human body, which is why they wanted to kill him, because he dared to call himself as God. Now, let that same mind be in you, who was in Christ, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God. I know these are deeper teachings, but that's what we do here. We're not babes. I'm not going to sit here and just give you, if you want that, I'm sure there are ministers that can come here for you and give you nice little positive thinking, feel good messages. I'm sure that is not, but this is not what HeartLight has been built upon, but it's built up on searching, yea, the deep things of God, for they are foolishness to the natural mind. And I quoted, that's Bible. For eye hath not seen or heard the things that God hath prepared for them that love him. For the Spirit searches the deep things of God, even though they are foolishness to the natural mind. So, all that being said, of course they did not want us to know that. They did not want us to know we even existed before. And that is the reason that we have the doctrine of original sin. Because the body more showed us that we lack. We need something. The body always needs something. Always needs something. Right? So,
what is original sin?
well, original sin is that I start as a body that is lesser than what I was created to be. So, then I need help. I need saved. And we I'm trying not to get into deeper stuff, but that's the reason that we identify more sin with the body. No, I still have trouble with all these people that are connecting the spirit to something evil and bad and all that. I just personally don't believe that. I think there's things that come in that are not so good, undeveloped entities, I'll call them, but I will not call them spirit, because I believe in one spirit.
Was it Augustine that brought that original sin doctrine in? St. Augustine?
I have that information at home, but yeah, it was.
It was around
Yeah, and it was. The thing is, it has its origin in the church, not in the nature of God, or what we call God.
I remember when I realized that he created Limbo as a Catholic, that drove me absolutely nuts. And I think it was part of the
Limbo.
Church, Catholic Church.
Limbo's where the babies go who are not baptized.
Oh,
Yes.
I never heard that. I'm not a Catholic.
Well, that's why they baptize them so quickly, so
Right.
they'll go to some realm of hell or something, which is totally ridiculous. But anyway, many people bought into it and still do. That's the truth of that. So to me, I don't give anything power that does not originate in my creation or my creator. And since I believe everything has happened due to love, then I do not find anything opposite of love as part of the origination of creation. Therefore, that tells me that most of these things has been our own miscreation of creation. And of course, the church came along with something to scapegoat it and to blame it on, so they needed something like the devil or Satan. I think that's why everybody connected so much to Flip Wilson's "the devil made me do it" kind of idea, because what a great excuse to get out of anything. And people are still using it. Even people who do horrible things will say, it wasn't me. Something just took over in me and the devil just made me do it. So if there is, per se, a devil, if there are things that are not good entities, I think it still all comes from our undeveloped self. Our undeveloped self. I think more you develop your consciousness to embrace wholeness, and that all things are spirit, and all things are of purpose, and all things are of God, just like it says. I know all things work together. Not some things, all things work together that love God. Now, either we're going to believe that or not, or we're going to pick and choose. Now, it's not that I've not experienced things that felt like an attack of some kind. I have days that I wonder why a depression comes upon me or something like that. But as far as on a higher level of thinking, I realize sometimes that some days I'm more vulnerable to what's in the collective consciousness. And sometimes in the collective consciousness, you have a lot of people who have contributed to the collective consciousness things that I become sensitive to if I'm not careful. I'll pick it up. Does anybody know what I'm saying there without getting into a deeper thing? In other words, it's not mine, but I'm picking up depression in everybody who's depressed, everybody who is anxious has invested that into the collective consciousness. If I become open and vulnerable and not protective of myself, and I do believe you should be protective of yourself, if we don't do that, then these things kind of show up in us. But they show up in us to show us how that we need to be stronger, how we need to be stronger in our faith and our vision, and that we need to yet grow and to mature. So even these things can be turned over to become teachers for us at some level. I feel today where my strength lies is due to the experiences of the weaknesses I've experienced. You know, how do I say that? As you all know, in 60 years of my story, it hadn't been a bed of roses. It's been some tough times, some hard times. And I'm not trying to complain about that, but I tell you, those times brought me here. I embraced them. And at the time, I was wondering, why, God? I've given my life to you. I'm out here doing what I can to assist you and represent you. How in this world could this happen to me? And sometimes if I could have heard, God probably be saying, what has happened to you? So that's a whole new ball game to get, but I think there are just days and times in our life, you go through a grieving time. You lose somebody that you love, a close relative, a partner, whatever it is. This lets down your not only immune system physically, but your immune system within, spiritually. And when you do that, just as when the human immune system is down, and you come in contact with viruses that you do every day, but in particular, at this time, you were so low that those viruses got in and caused an imbalance in the body that caused you some kind of a sickness or illness or a disease. This is why I think everybody had some different experience with COVID. Some hardly had anything happen. Some people died from it. Just all kinds of situations happened. Hello?
Hi, this is for Tim. He said I could ask for Michael. Yep.
Yes, Michael, take it. Thank you, Michael. So anyway, does that make any sense to you at all that we're all sensitive? I think we're more sensitive than some of the average people are, because we've opened up through meditation. We've opened up our hearts, and we've opened ourselves up, and we just assume that everything that's coming in is going to be a good experience, but sometimes it is not. And this is why we should not be so hard on ourselves during these times that these things happen to us, because oftentimes we're not the reason that it happened, other than we were just in a place in which we were more vulnerable for it to bring in things that brings us out of balance.
But don't you feel that as what you're saying about us being more sensitive and more aware and all the things that cause us to be sitting in these chairs now, that when we have these things, that we have a sacred obligation to ourselves to say, what do I do with this? Where do I put this? What is my lesson to learn from this?
Absolutely.
Any one of those things, any one of the bad things that ever happens. Because that's the only way we can fund the joy. If we just constantly focus about the negative stuff, where have we left the joy?
Okay, this is a good point. The way I'm hearing you, how I'm getting it, is that when things happen to us, stay mindful. Because oftentimes when things happen to us that are difficult and challenging, we somehow connect to the emotion of it, the emotional body. When we connect to the emotional body, it knocks us out consciously and we become no longer proactive, but reactive. And we start reacting. If you can stay proactive and stay present with the presence that is within you, you can have a completely different experience and outcome. But if you become what I call unconscious and go into reactive mode, then you have a different outcome completely with that. But yes, what you're saying, Rhonda, is important if you can stay mindful to do that. Most people aren't. Most people just shut down, feel victimized. Why is it happening to me? What could I have done to even cause this? And where was God in all of this? Why are my prayers not being answered? If we go into that, then we don't activate our own innate healing mechanisms, which to me is the rebalancing of all systems.
I don't know who said this, but it really hit me and I like to use it. This person said, when something happens that is what I would consider unfortunate or bad, I say, I can't wait to see the good that's going to come from this.
That's it. That's mindfulness. But how many people do that is what I'm saying. We just give in to it and we just go shut ourselves off and feel horrible. So how...
It's a choice.
It's a choice. It all comes back to the power of choose again. The Course says, choose again. Jesus said, turn the other cheek. There's more than one way to look at anything. There's always an alternative way to look at it. Okay, our time is getting away from us. So what is reincarnation to you now at this point? What of you would like to just share that? You don't have to, but you that would just like to share coming out of this, where have you kind of landed at this point? Now, this is all progressive. I'm not asking for an absolute, but where are you? I know that most of you have heard of reincarnation if you've been around metaphysical groups and whatever, but now I'm asking for you, what does this mean to you? Bunny?
I'm going to start out with the word good intentions. If you have good intentions, you keep on progressing. And if you keep on progressing, you get rid of your karma. And if you get rid of your karma, you don't have to reincarnate.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Keep them short.
Having had many reincarnations, I've found them all to be painful, but well worth it, because I've learned how to forgive people that I didn't think I could forgive, and I've grown through those to, I think, a better place.
Very good. Sandra?
Well, what I got from this that I didn't really understand before was the evolution of soul to catch back up with spirit. So those incarnations are soul, her, coming back to evolve back to where spirit always was and is.
Thank you. That makes me feel very good that somebody got that for themselves is this story of it's a love story. It's a beautiful love story between the soul and the spirit. It's an amazing story. I think it's unique. I'm not sure that it's much out there. I'd be surprised if anybody really understands that the split was in the soul realm, and therefore the soul. And see, here's the double talk. Is it didn't happen. Separation did not happen, but there was a belief in the mind or the soul. And remember, this all started when one part of the mind said to another part of the mind, "Who are you?" What a question. Who are you? And the minute that it questioned itself, a belief in separation was made. A belief in separation, not separation, belief in separation. But upon the belief in separation, we have developed a world view. And a world based upon, I'm not you and you're not me. Is that not the root of every ism that you can think of? Racism, genderism, nationalism.
Anti-Semitism.
Absolutely. Every ism is about I'm not you and you're not me, and if you're not me, you can't be right, and therefore you are seen as my enemy. This is all a belief system that has made itself very manifest in the world. So the split is the belief system in the mind or the soul. Somebody else take it from there. So then what from there? Now I want to say to you, the Bible teaches this so clearly, that a double-minded man is unstable in his ways. Double-minded. What's the double mind we're talking about?
Good and evil?
Separation.
No, good and evil is the result. It's not the innate. Good or evil is not innate.
Serving God and man.
Serving God and man.
The separation, of course, is what you're actually talking about is the separation.
Well, we had to, there you go. Once it gets us to believe something like separation, then it has to build evidence of it, because there's no evidence in it itself, because it didn't happen. You see what I'm saying? You have to build a belief system in something. Okay? Well, what's the best thing you could do to prove I'm not you and you're not me? What's the greatest proof of that? That I'm David and you're Rhonda and you're Bonnie and I'm not you and you're not me. Our bodies. So the ego became the god of this world. That's what it said in the Bible. That the ego, it says Satan or the devil, is the god of this world, revealing itself to be the god of this world. Okay? So if it can develop a religious system on, you start out as a body, then you start out separate from there. They would not want you to know that you were in God before the foundation of the world and found holy and blameless before the disruption of the world, the disruption. That's why this is part of changing the reincarnation and pre-existence dogma. Was important to make sure that people are not who they are by creation, but who they are by birth, which is less than what creation is, and therefore need someone to save them and bring them to that level of salvation. Now, a lot of you have left this whole idea of original sin level, if you even got there. But those who come from that have come from that because of this state of consciousness that you've ended, that I didn't start as a separate body. I am a part of the oneness of creation. Who I am is what I was created to be, not what I was born to be.
In other words, we are spirit first, body second. Body is just a vessel.
Just a vessel. A vessel for what? The soul.
To experience.
For the part of the soul that believed in the separation has now gone with the body, which has lowered its frequency into the density of a sleeping world of matter. And a deep sleep came upon Adam. So the body is the cold universe. It is what is asleep in the illusion of man. I saw a hand back there.
Yeah, that might be going way off into deep end, so I apologize.
I know you try. Go ahead.
Well, in growing up, I often thought of reincarnation with the cows that are in India, because that was my first acknowledgement of reincarnation, and I haven't heard you talk about that yet.
Good. Very good. That's a good one. You got one. Bingo. Well, here's just my take on it. I don't believe in cross-species evolution. I believe that species evolve within their own species. So I don't know that I was ever a cow or whatever, but I do have in me the cow nature, which is the animal part of my evolutionary story. So now that's just my take. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. If you're a person that believes you've been a bird or you've been a this or that, that's fine. That's what you believe. I just believe, and I get this as what I call kingdom principle. Genesis says that every seed shall come forth after its own kind. And that's kind of universal law. Unless man steps in and does hybrid and people mix. I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm just saying humans do that. But if everything is left to itself, it only duplicates itself.
But don't the people in India believe that there are certain people reincarnated to cows? Isn't it why the cows are sacred?
Well, if you're from India, if you're Hindu, you would believe that. If you're Hindu. It's a Hindu belief, I guess. Holy cow.
Is that where that came from?
David, can I share my opinion about that? If we think about cows, every part of them probably, or most of their being, is to give to other people. They give milk, we use their leather, we use their skins. So almost everything they have is something that we use, and they're such gentle creatures. That's why I think people think they're sacred.
Well, of course, I have a special place in my heart for cows, since they were my first congregation. I still, even though I do it, I still have a deep inner conviction of eating them. And I try to be broad-minded, I just think it's so 3D. I think the meat thing is a whole 3D thing. And, you know, you would not think about eating your dog, but you don't think a thing about eating a cow or a pig. Like it's just normal. We just go get dead meat and flesh and bloody and put it in the skillet and just eat it and not think a thing about it. But if it's some other kind of animal that we would not be used to, we go, oh God, I couldn't eat that. I couldn't eat my cat.
Well, Well, and that's just, that's predominantly an American mindset of that.
I know they do in other
When it comes to other
countries.
kinds of animals.
Well, that's why I say it's all relative.
Yeah.
It's cultural too. You know, you go to the Far East and they eat dogs and cats.
And bats.
They do, but still doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. It's just what it is, and that's a personal conviction of people to make that choice. I still see that cow running, the mother running after her baby in that movie we went to see. Remember, it's called Unity. We thought we was going to see some spiritual
that's
thing.
right.
Yeah, remember that movie?
Remember that.
Yeah,
That's when we all thought we were
that's when Beth stopped eating meat, I
She
think.
quit eating meat then.
So I know, good meat is good sometimes. I don't think it's always good, but I do have to get past that to enjoy meat. I just have to get into my more human side of me than my heart side of me about that kind of thing. But anyway, that's under work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, because I can't make that decision for you what you feel is okay. But I just know that every seed come forth from its own kind. So so we talked about the purpose of reincarnation was to take away from the fact of needing a savior, needing salvation, that we are born sinners, but we are created divine. Remember that. You may be born sinner, according to how you define sinner, but you are created divine.
I don't know if I go along with being born as a sinner.
What's according to how you define sinner?
Well,
How do you define it? How do you define it? No, you said it.
Sin is when you don't do the right thing, right?
Isn't it when you miss
According
the
to
mark?
Paul.
Huh?
You miss the mark?
Miss the mark, that's it.
Miss the mark doesn't necessarily mean do the wrong thing.
No. Sin doesn't always have to do with right and wrong. It
Oh,
just,
okay.
Can you be born missing the mark?
Hmm?
I said, how can you be born missing the mark?
Yeah, I can-
Well, that's why the original sin is,
Yeah.
well, I know you can't be created and miss the mark.
How can you be born and miss the mark?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think you can, but it's all a long explanation as to why I miss the mark with my body sometimes, because sometimes I know my body, the best thing for my body is this, and I don't do it, so I missed the mark.
But that's on down the road, that's not.
Being born, yeah. Of course, I see what you're saying. Well, that goes back to the infant doctrine of being born into sin, yeah.
That's from the Catholics, right?
It is. So we've talked about pretty much what I had down here. We talked about a little bit who changed all of this, and the reason for the change of it. You brought up some good things, especially the idea that it's not the spirit that is reincarnating, but it is the soul, aspect of the soul that is reincarnating. And the spirit, I put it this way, the spirit loves her so much that he goes along and supports her on her journey back to the wedding. What's the first thing? The miracle. The wedding at Cana. Water into wine. Transformation. Alchemy. And a lot of people believe that it was his wedding to Mary Magdalene. It wasn't just a wedding at random, but it was the true wedding of the soul, Mary Magdalene, with Jesus, the manifestation of the Spirit in the human story, came together and brought forth the transformation of a new species, a new creation. So that wedding should happen in all of us, that we feel the time in which our soul has raised its vibration to be so one again in itself. And then, because you see, spirit won't marry anything that is not whole, because it is whole. Anything less is not a match. But once the soul matches, the Spirit and they unite, they will bring forth, I believe, a new body. The body will be the child of this union of the soul and the spirit, which is soma. So this is a thing that's getting me, I've dealt with for all this time, is the tendency that we have based upon a lot of belief that God created our body. That's the first thing that has to be dealt with. That's the first thing. If you don't get past that, and you start contributing your physical body to the creation of a spiritual God, I don't know what to do with you, because there's no evidence to me that a spiritual God would create an inferior body to itself. So I think he gave man physically the ability to multiply themselves. That is why the sexual act was developed. There's the placing of the seed into the woman. All of that is a mechanism that was given to man. He said, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to give you the way in which you can do it. I hope you grow up enough to use this correctly, because there are souls waiting to come in, and there is a rhythm to how those souls want to come in. But if you're going to misuse it, you're going to start bringing in undeveloped souls into the planet. That's going to change your whole world.
Okay, so bringing in undeveloped souls are that they have not they are not in a reincarnation state. They are in original incarnation, is what you're
They're
saying.
called, yeah, that's why we can say old souls, new souls, young souls, souls that haven't even started their reincarnation process have been brought in, because you have to be prepared to start the reincarnation process. You don't come in unprepared for it.
Explosion, which I've always wondered about.
What?
I said, I guess that explains population explosion, because I've often wondered why are there more and more and more and more and more souls showing up.
Sure.
Okay,
Well,
so.
absolutely, that's why.
Yeah, okay.
That's why we're totally, like everything else, out of balance. We're not in rhythm to creation. We've lost the rhythm. We've lost the song. We've lost the melody. We're just playing the notes, da, 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 with no melody to it. We don't know what the song's about. We don't understand why that we bring in souls that seem to not have a soul, almost.
David, you're saying that new souls are constantly being created then?
New souls are always trying to come in, but they don't want to come in until they've been prepared to come in. But when we misuse our ability to create a body, then a soul has to be pulled out, whether they're ready or not, and incarnated into that body, and that soul is angry. These are the people you look at and you want to knock them on the forehead and say, anybody home? How can you do what you do? You have no conscience. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's such people out there that have no conscience about raping or killing or murdering and doing horrible things to people. Why?
Well, we can't talk about that today because we're out of time.
I'm sorry, we have
You got 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Do not stop.
I'm the timekeeper today. Tim.
Yeah, we got an appointment to do. So anyway, whoa, sometimes I feel like I'm rewriting the whole spiritual religious book, which is a lot sometimes to do that, but I just don't see we've been given the right story yet.
I just think what you did on reincarnation was great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really
that's been
enjoyed
my
that. I
absolute.
understand it now.
Good.
Been my absolute favorite.
Lynn, yes?
I thought what you just said about soul being angry was of interest, that there are souls that joyously reincarnate and connect with spirit. I think the anger blocks them from connecting to spirit.
Yes, it can happen too. Several.
And it's almost like a, Earth or our incarnation here is like someone, I heard a wonderful story that likened it to an amusement park for souls. but that it's an educational park. And that as they incarnate, they agree with spirit to learn certain lessons each time as they come through.
I
So
think,
I do believe in reincarnation. And I see why you say it's not necessary, but for me, the logic works for me.
okay, and you have to define, when you say me, who me is.
Just my soul resonates.
There
with-
you go, okay.
Or
The
my
me,
spirit resonates with
the
that
me, the
story.
me soul, not the I spirit.
Right.
Totally different. All right, I'll tell you what, we're having a movie next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to go see this movie. It's on Fourth Dimension and why we live in a polarized world that we have. It's very, very good. So just take a little break here and do something different. We will do a Wednesday movie on this. I really think you'll enjoy it.
Cool.
You'll learn a lot of good things about it. So
How long
remember,
is the movie? So if we need to make appointments, so it's after, is it longer than the typical time?
I think it's about an hour
Okay.
long, as far as I know.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll check it out, but it seems like it's about an hour or so. Anyway, it's an interview with somebody that has written a book on this, so I think it really gets, I got a lot of answers out of it. It's a great conversation, and I wanted to share it with you.
Is it streaming?
I will download it somehow, yeah, we'll get it here. Remember Sandra's workshop is Friday at 1 o'clock.
That's right.
For you that want to become a part of that. And also Sunday, Randall will be here, and I know it's a lot. I feel like HeartLight's in the intensity before the finals that we're cramming right now. The intensity of the time we're living in said, I really need more of your attention right now. I need more of your time right now. Please make more time for me, because there's some things that's got to get done that's very important before everything goes to hell in a handbasket, you know, type of thing. I'm just saying that. But things are on the brink. It's on the brink right now. And it's very important that there be gatherings all over the world, just small gatherings of people that Margaret Mead talked about, that come together right now. So I know it's a little bit of a sacrifice for you that drive a long way and whatever, but you are so good to support all that we do here and all the workshops, and we got a lot of good things coming up too that I think is going to be very beneficial for us this summer. I know summer you do more traveling and leaving, which I understand, but don't forget us here at HeartLight in the summer, because that's a different time, a different mood, a different climate. So remember to continue to be here when you can and support when you're not able to be here. All right, can we just take 30 seconds?
Yep.
As we open our mind just to receive what Spirit has to say to us today, we ask the Spirit to individualize it so that each one heard exactly and received exactly what they came to hear. And now we lay this upon the altar of our heart and mind and detach from any opinions of right or wrong, good or bad. We're also open for any corrections that need to be made in our belief systems that's not in line with our innate intelligence systems. We take this information seriously, for we know that this is sacred information, and it's been entrusted into our hands. Therefore, we ask the blessings of the Most High upon this subject in these classes that we have been doing for the last several weeks. We ask this in the loving name of the loving nature of the Christ, and so it is. Thank you
So it
very
is.
much. Have a great day, a beautiful day, and we will see you Friday and Sunday